Hello and welcome to an episode of BeamNG.Drive. In this episode, I'm going to be doing a mod review on the ETK 1300 series. So once you click on the model, you have a few different options. Here's the base model with a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. This one also has a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. This one has a 4-cylinder diesel. This one, 6-cylinder. Now this one, it has a 6-cylinder diesel. Sporty model, turbocharged 6-cylinder. And then the sportiest one, this is also a turbocharged 6-cylinder. This is probably one of the best mods I've seen come to BeamNG.Drive. But let's start out with the base model. Now this weighs quite a lot more. By quite a lot, I mean a lot. This thing weighs about 4,200 pounds, whereas the normal ETK 800, which this is based off of, that weighs 3,400 pounds, so you'd expect it to handle like it weighs quite a lot more. Well, before I start driving, let's just do a little bit of a go around of the vehicle. And in case you're wondering, let's just go into the relative camera. This actually does have a This has a fully custom interior made just for this car. You can see everything is matched up pretty much perfectly. Like, even down to the little details, it's matched to the normal ETK 800 pretty much perfectly. This one doesn't have air suspension, however, other models do have air suspension. Just a little 4-cylinder under the hood, and it's just pretty basic, nothing extremely special about it. With this mod too, if you notice, everything seems to match up basically perfectly. There's no weird glitches or anything, and that will continue on to crashing and the crash physics. This base model has rear-wheel drive on it, and even though it's only a 4-cylinder and it's big, but it handles corners better than what you would expect. So let's find a nice tree to crash into so I can show you the crash physics of this. Something else too, this is the only modern SUV that has ever been like modded into the game or something like that, besides Russian mods, which are shit. Okay, let's try to crash into this tree here. And no slow motion, just crash right on into it. Take the car, roll it back on over. There we go. And you can see from that, there's no spikiness and no weirdness. Once again, continuing with what I said, one of the best mods for the game itself. Okay, let's look at something a little bit more fun now. Only a little bit. It still has a 4-cylinder, however, it's all-wheel drive, and it's the comfort model. The organization of everything isn't exactly spot on. For example, this is the comfort model, as it said in the description. However, it just has normal front struts, not comfort front struts. And just to add to that, there isn't actually any model that comes with the comfort struts. Now what you'll notice is that this has the different electronic stability control mode called All-Terrain's Electronic Stability Control. Now that's basically, what that basically is a torque vectoring system. However, while it sounds very cool, just like how a lot of somewhat off-roady vehicles nowadays have torque vectoring and whatnot, the one on this car, it's glitched. When it comes to off-roading, I'm extremely surprised by how it does. Let's just take it onto some random trail over here. I haven't pressed anything, I'm just leaving it in, well, wait. Okay, so I have turned off traction control and stability. However, we're just going through a bush right now. Yes, let's go through that bush. And we come out on the other side. I'm trying to find some off-roady sections. Anyway, let's just go and see how this thing handles on the road, because this has all-wheel drive. However, it still has that 4-cylinder, but you can just throw a 6-cylinder in it. But for the purposes of right now, I'm just going to keep the 4-cylinder in it. And even, like, it doesn't have absurdly large tires. However, it's able to just go around corners and cope with everything really well. When I first was testing out this mod, I was extremely surprised just by how it did. Let's go over to a different model, shall we? Turbo diesel time. Now, in case you're wondering, these turbo diesels and all the engines for this are the same exact engine options that you'd have in the normal ETK 800. And for some reason I'm flooring it, but it doesn't want to go down to second gear. Right here is just a touring model with a 6-cylinder. You can check that out too. Now, oddly enough, this model has very off-roady looking tires. So we're going to take it off-road, but first, I'd like to show you the air suspension on this. This model comes with air suspension. You can see those buttons up there. Click O, and it goes up to maximum height, which is actually pretty high off the ground. And then we have, when you press Shift and G, it goes down to pretty much unusable mode. But just press G and it goes back up to its normal height. Unlike most air suspensions, this mod is just so surprising to me because, yes, there's been air suspension mods before. However, this one is a lot different because if you notice, when we make the car go up onto its tiptoes, most air suspension cars, they're like bouncing all over the place. Whereas this one, you can see they're still given the suspension. Now when you lower it down to its minimum setting, that's when it looks like every other air suspension mod that's in the game. I can even show you that by going on to the interior. Like, it just finds every single bump in the road, and it's very jittery and annoying. Just press G to bring it back up to its normal ride height, and it's so much better than every other air suspension mod ever for the ETK 800. This mod, I personally didn't look to see if the author put how long it took to make, but I'm going to say it took a long time to make everything for this car work so good. Now what I'm going to do is find a nice off-roady bit. Shift down, car. Okay, so I found a little bit of an off-road section here, and just because, well, I'm kind of an ape, so I like to go fast, I'm going to put on a turbocharger. Now, all of these turbochargers, except for turbocharger and turbocharger Sport Plus, and possibly tuned, are with the mod. Everything else is other mods that I've installed, so let's put on just the regular turbocharger. Okay, so now we have a bit more speed. I'm not going to raise the suspension up until I see it necessary. Currently, the center differential is not locked, and if you want to learn about that, just let's give it a little brief lesson about what a center differential locker does. Now, normally, if one wheel starts spinning, all the power is just going to go to that wheel, so you need to lock it up, and simple, that's way too simplified, but that's basically what's going to happen there. It'll make sure that the power is evenly distributed between the front and the rear. Now, there's a little tiny trail here that I'm going to go on. Okay, finally some actual off-roading instead of just high-speed shit. Really, this car does not care. What I do know that it cares is mudding. I've tried going through mud in this car before, and it does not have any of it. I'm going to go left here. Yeah. Now I'll start driving like an ape. Keep in mind we're on this little tiny trail. I have regular electronic stability control left on. Actually, you know, we're going to take that off so I can have full access to the engine's power. Slow down here. Okay. I must say the brakes on this mod aren't the best. But I mean, they're not too bad. They don't really bother me that much. Try to figure this out here. Okay, that bit bouncy there. And so far, I really haven't seen a need to lift the car up, which is actually kind of surprising. But okay, we may need to lift it up for going through the water. Let's see if we do. No, still don't even need to do that. But if you want to, you can. Just by clicking O, and then that raises the car up. And now we have a bunch more ground clearance, so we can do even more off-roading. Okay, I think I've made my point that this is a very good off-roader. Now, let's go on to a different map where I can show you... Actually, no, let's just stay on Jungle Rock Island because it seems to be quite nice and whatnot. I mean, there's not much more about this car. All I can tell you is it's quite a lot of fun, and it's extremely fast. Personally, I don't like SUVs. However, this is the best SUV mod in the game. Period. We're just going to go back to right here and spawn up a different one. The one we're going to spawn up is the Sport model. This model is just a turbo version, is a turbo diesel version of the one I was driving, but we're going to go to the TT Sport model. So here we are with the TT Sport model. What this has is a turbocharger added onto the engine, and yeah, that's about it. It also has air suspension, but that's basically all. One more thing too, this mod has custom wheels and tires because you need bigger ones because it's just a bigger vehicle. Since this is the TT Sport model, it should be pretty good at going around a corner. And yeah, it is. Electronic stability control, none of that shit actually. And see how it handles. Shit, electronic. Okay, yes, it is very fast. Now we're gonna go to the outside camera for a minute. Now what you'd expect is that if you lower the car, it should, in theory, handle better. However, it becomes so that there's no play in the suspension basically at all. And if you notice, I'm going to go around this corner here, and the car does less than you'd expect. It stays completely flat, but the car just does less than you'd expect. Okay, we've seen this model. Now, for the more fun model. The TT Sport Plus model, which does have more power. Even though it doesn't say it has more power, it does have more power. Just to show you that it has more power, the other car made about 12.5 pounds of boost. This car, 17 or so. And we get to the options of the car. Some new things with this mod is that you have a Sport Plus ECU. What that means is the idle is a little bit higher and it revs to 7,000 RPM. You have different electronic stability control, pretty simple. I find it odd that this is the only car that has metric gauges, whereas all the other models have imperial. It's weird. Really, the car is great, but the organization of everything isn't. As for the engine block, we have a Sport Plus engine block, which is new. A Sport Plus turbocharger, that's also new compared to the normal ETK 800. Obviously, the air suspension is new. Now, this has normal air struts in the front. However, you have the option for TT Sport front air struts, which I find very weird because this is the top of the line most fast model. Yet it doesn't have the sportiest struts for the air suspension. Really, it's just kind of weird. So, turn it off, and we're gonna take it around some bends and see how this one handles. Even faster. Ooh. Okay. And you can tell it's based off of the ETK 800 because you got a kind of loose back end. You'll notice this hasn't going around corners with electronic stability control turned off. The back end always wants to kick out like that, even with the all-wheel drive system. So it's sending a good amount of power to the rear, and that just makes the car feel a little bit more playful. And my bad driving, don't let me down there. Okay, I'm going to say that I'm an okay driver. I am pretty good at doing this sort of thing. But that's normally with cars. An SUV is just, it's different. But anyway, I mean, there's not much else to talk about. Summary of this video. It's a very, very good mod. It's detailed perfectly. However, some of the little details, like organization of the parts and whatnot, is, I feel, kind of weird. The air suspension is amazing. And really, I can't see any downsides to it, except if you're very OCD and you want everything to be absolutely perfect with organization, like this one has more power than the normal TT Sport, but it doesn't say it has more power. It's just weird stuff like that. This is the only downside, but this is a great mod and all the good things outweigh the negatives. So, hope you liked this episode, and goodbye.